And I want to talk about what I call know your own body. Um, we're all told to keep a careful check on our breasts, and if we notice any changes, to get them checked out straight away. But a lot of people don't, and I was guilty of that myself. So, my story is this: I noticed a flattening of my nipple, and it looked a little bit like a groove underneath. But I had been going to the gym for 3 months or longer, and I'd been doing boxing, which I'd never done before. I'd lost a stone in weight, and I was 56. So I kept saying to myself, well, it may be an age thing. Maybe it's from the boxing that it looks different, and losing the weight fairly swiftly, a stone in 3 months. But I was wrong, and I should have known better. And it wasn't until we went away for a weekend, and my husband and we stayed in a hotel room, and it had a really big mirror with different lighting from my own bathroom. And so I had a bath before we were going out. I looked in the mirror, and I sort of lifted and moved my breast around, and I knew, from that moment I knew. And I also knew that it was cancer, because if I just found a lump, it might have been a cyst, which could be drained, might have just been benign. But because it was something tugging at the skin, I knew just from reading and from past experience what it was. Just to say here that my mother had breast cancer when she was 51. Hers was a mass rather than a lump, and in her case she found a sort of depression, like a puckered dip, almost like a bruise. And back then, we're talking about many years ago, we weren't told so much to look for different things. We were told to look for lumps, and that was about it. So she got it checked out, and it was, and she had a mastectomy, and it was 23 years, the cancer, breast cancer, did not return. She also had an implant, which she had to have changed several times. But she went on to live her life to the full. So once I realised in my case what it was, I telephoned the doctor from London. Actually, we were still there, and I made an appointment to see her the next day. So I went in to see the doctor. She examined me, and she said straight away, "You are right to be concerned." So straight talking, and that's what you need. I asked how soon I could be seen by the specialist. She said it could be 2 or 3 weeks. So we booked a holiday to Mexico with our adult daughter, and this was really important to us for a lot of reasons, and what my daughter had been through in the last 6 months, that we go. So one of the first questions I asked was, can we still go on holiday, which I'll come to after. But I couldn't wait 2 to 3 weeks, because we would actually have been in Mexico when my appointment came up. And one of the hardest things is waiting for test results. So we were in a happy position of being able to go privately. My husband had taken out a insurance policy years before, when he'd worked for WH Smith, and it was really cheap, so he thought, why not? They had an insurance agent come to the depot where he worked, and he did it, and that was a really good decision. So my GP was able to refer me to a specialist 4 days later. So I went and saw him. He did a mammogram and a biopsy, and about 15 minutes later I went back in to see him, and he said, yes, you're right, it is cancer, but we will need to see you in a week's time to confirm the lab results, but it is clear what it is. So I had my list of questions ready. I'd actually thought about how I wanted it dealt with, and I decided that I would like to have breast reductions on both in order to remove the tumour, and then just have smaller breasts. So I certainly had plenty to spare. So he said, very honestly, I don't do that sort of work, but I know someone who does, so I will refer you. And my question was then, can we go on holiday? And because I said it's in 2 weeks' time. So he said, yes, that's fine. It won't make any difference, and I will refer you in the meantime. And when you come back, you can go and see the specialist, the surgeon. So that's what I did. And I'm really glad that at that point, I didn't keep on guessing. I actually rang the doctor once the penny dropped. So what I'm saying is, don't put it off. Even if we're in lockdown, even if you think, oh, it's not convenient, I'm really busy. It's so important, because the sooner that you deal with it, the better the outcome. Even if it's only because you might just have a lumpectomy. And if you wait, I mean, it's possible that it could spread, but also you will have a bigger tumour to deal with. So I want to read something to you now, which is the start of the manuscript that I wrote, which I never got published into a book, but this is how it starts. My husband Andrew and I walked into the oncoplastic surgeon's office. My knees shook and I kept my head down. 2 nurses stood to the side of the desk, their expressions unreadable, but smiling reassuringly. I pulled out the chair to sit down and I heard the words, "I have good news for you." As my heart hammered in my chest, I caught my breath. I looked up at my surgeon to see her face was full of joy of having healed me. We removed all the cancer, the margins were clear, and there was no sign of cancer in the lymph nodes. So I start off with the good news, because you will have some good news at some point. And I say that because it's really hard to hear the dreaded words, you have cancer. And I can remember waking up in the morning each day after, and the first thought in my head was, I've got cancer. So knowing that there will be steps along the way that will be difficult, but then there'll be the relief when that is removed and you are given the good news. And even over the years, when you have your annual mammograms, there's anxiety waiting for the result. But when you get that letter saying nothing of concern, oh, the elation, the wonderful feeling of relief and the freedom that you then feel is marvellous. It's something to look forward to. So I hope that this will help, and I will go on now to talk about other specific subjects.